we give our time, attention, and love. We enjoy sharing and following friends, family, colleagues, and inspirational leaders aligned with our passions and interests in a hyper-connected world. We're all about tribes. We join tribes that speak to us and align with our vibe. In Tribe Goals, we share time with key lifestyle and industry changemakers as they share some of their inspirations, thinking, and flow with their communities. We'll see how they started and grew their tribe, as well as which they have joined and how that has fueled them every other week. I'm your host, Kimmy Smith, and we'll navigate our favorites in our show, Tribe Goals. When I think of Adam Carolla, Loveline comes to mind immediately. He co-hosted this call-in show which focused on relationships with Dr. Drew Pinsky on MTV, and you learned a lot of information while having levity throughout the show. He is also known for The Man Show, being a host of a number of TV and radio shows, including the Adam Carolla Project, which focused on home improvement on TLC. In addition to appearing on Dancing with the Stars, Celebrity Apprentice, his voiceover work, his own sangria line known as Mangria, writing a number of books and more, his passion for cars is undeniable. Last month, we interviewed Adam at the Chicago Auto Show, where he shared where his passion for cars emerged, Paul Newman, working on cars, exotic EVs, and of course, his bromance with Jimmy Kimmel. What was the moment that you knew that you fell in love with cars?
I always loved cars. When I was a little boy, I was a big fan of cars. I just never had any money, and my parents didn't have any money, and my dad didn't like cars. My mom didn't like cars, so it was kind of crappy because it was like being a musician and never having a guitar to play. I got older, and then I was poor again, and I drove pickup trucks and worked as a carpenter, and at some point I got into show business, I made some money, and I was able to buy some cars.
How did it happen that you became the guy with the most Paul Newman cars?
I always liked race cars. I liked Datsuns for some weird reason. Paul Newman drove for Datsun, and then he drove for Nissan. So he drove, in the beginning of his racing career, he drove Datsuns and then Nissans. And so I was collecting these Datsun race cars, and these Paul Newman cars kept coming up. And I'd go, well, it's a Nissan race car, so I'll take it. And the Newman name was not as important to me at the time, but at a certain point, it dawned on me that I was actually collecting Newman race cars and not Datsun race cars, and that's when it started to sort of turn, and that's when I started to focus a little more on just collecting the Newman stuff.
You're at the Chicago Auto Show. What do you love about this show, and what are you looking forward to seeing?
I love all the cars. They're all my children. It's sort of like Michael Jackson felt about the children of the world, but in a wholesome way. In a whole, none of the later year stuff. I look at the cars as all my children. The electric cars, they're like my stepkid who's been in and out of juvie. Not that into. He's fine. He can still sleep at the house, but he's got to stay away from my beer.
What do you think of the whole exotic EV movement going on?
The electric car stuff is fine. My wife has a Tesla, but it just died in the garage literally 2 days ago. There's nothing we can do about it. Like, they took it and they said, we don't know what's wrong with it. We don't know when we're going to give it back to you. So I like a car with an internal combustion engine in it, and I like a car I can dump some casserole edge into versus an electric car which doesn't have a crankcase.
Well, I guess there won't be additional exotic EVs being added to your collection.
No, we needed one car with an internal combustion engine in it so we could get around. And like I said, when the electric cars die, they just die. And I'm pretty good at wrenching on cars, but I'm looking at a Tesla and it just says it's dead. And I don't even know where to begin. Where if it was an old school car, I'd put it in neutral and we'd bump start it or get out the cables and jump start it or try something.
What trends are you seeing at the show that we should keep an eye out for?
I'm seeing smaller motors, V8s giving way to V6s and V6s giving way to straight or inline 4-cylinder engines. They're putting turbochargers on them. They're asking more out of smaller, and that's where Castrol Edge comes in for maximum engine performance. You need a better lubrication because you're asking for more out of a smaller engine.
What are your 3 must-haves that you have in your garage when you're working on your cars?
My 3 must-haves are metric set of sockets, because I'm working on foreign stuff mainly, an IPA beer, and Castrol Edge. And I'll take a swig off both of them. Oh, yeah.
In terms of your tribe, who are 3 people that have influenced your career?
Well, let's see. I'd say God, but I'm an atheist. Then I'd say my dad, but I don't really like him.
Oh, Lord.
I'll say Paul Newman. And there's Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, come on.
Wow.
I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Jimmy Kimmel. And I don't like my dad, but I like Jimmy's dad. So I'll say Jimmy's dad, Paul Newman, and Jimmy Kimmel. And by the way, Jimmy's dad is a Jim Kimmel, but for some reason, we never called Jimmy Jr.
All right, those are some pretty good picks, and it was so much fun talking to you about cars, Paul Newman, and of course, Jimmy Kimmel. Is there anything we should keep an eye out for?
Well, Kimmy, if you guys want to see a really cool video, go to Castrol USA on YouTube and check out me driving the wheels off this Audi R8.
From the insights on today's episode of Tribe Goals. Make sure to follow us on your favorite podcast platform, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Premium. Tribe Goals is a member of the Multimedia Podcast Network Athleisure Studio, part of Athleisure Media and Athleisure Mag. Visit us at athleisurestudio.com/Tribe Goals and follow us on Instagram at tribe.goals to see new episodes of Tribe Goals, as well as to see what other shows we have launched throughout our network. Tribe Goals is hosted by me, Kimmy Smith, and is executive produced by Paul Farkas and myself. Our theme music, Rough and Deep, performed by Jurgalin. I'll be back in 2 weeks with our next Tribe Goals guest.